Hey Bayek, it's me Ian. And in today's video, well, I'm doing another of my chats. Hopefully it won't be quite as controversial this week. Yes. But what I'm looking at this week is my love of history. And it all started, as so much does, from my childhood. My childhood, I loved fairy stories. I loved fantasy stories. I loved sci-fi stories, and I loved history. And history was very much something that was sparked off by reading certain books, which I have managed to collect some again because they were so important. And I wish I still had them all, but I'm collecting some back because you can get them. And they, of course, are Ladybird books. And I've got some here of the historical Ladybird books, which had these wonderful illustrations. They had some nice bit of text aside, and then they had these brilliant illustrations. And they just took my imagination, and I just ran with it. Absolutely, that's why I loved history so much. I say history is all around us. It's still we going into our houses, and our houses are full of history. You know, every day we think of people, we think of events, things that we have. And as what about us as physical media collectors? We look at a film that we've got on DVD or something like that, and that brings back so many memories. You know, it's everything in life is connected with history. So I know people say they don't like history, but whichever way you look at it, history is part of their lives. So, you know, they turn their noses up at history, but really it's there. It's in their houses, it's in their lives. So, you know, embrace history. Don't be afraid of it and say it's boring and all that, as people do when they don't understand something. Yeah, this is great stuff. So what I'm going to show you is some of the things that maybe sparked off my imagination in terms of we're looking at it as a collector's viewpoint. And here it is. This is what sparked so much off, and I've managed to collect some of these back again, and I'll just show you what I've got of the historical titles. Ladybird books are fantastic. They do so much, and it's funny because my connection is still here. 10 minutes away from where I live now is the Ladybird Book Factory. It's not working and producing like it did. It's closed just a few years ago, but it's still there, and so there's it's nice to have that Ladybird book connection. Anyhow, these books that I've got here, I'll just show you some of them. You know, I mean, you just look at this. This is Florence Nightingale. Fantastic. And you open it up and look at these illustrations. They always by the same artists. That's obviously looking at the Crimea War there. These were amazing. All these historical ones. So there's Florence Nightingale. And then Napoleon. Ha ha ha. Fantastic. Wonderful. Again, all about Napoleon. And then Stone Age man in Britain. Look at that. It's just amazing. And then Kings and Queens, book 1. Brilliant. Again, you get a brief history of the king or queen, and then it goes up right up to Elizabeth II, our late queen. Fantastic. One of the most popular queens ever, actually. And I think she's missed. I think people appreciate her a lot more now. And then we've got Nelson. Look at that. Iconic, isn't it, Nelson? Brilliant. Oh, another one that I really like, because there's a Yorkshire connection. Whitby, Captain Cook. And this is all about Captain Cook and his life as well. Might be a bit controversial with some people nowadays, but hey, it's history. You can't change it. Look at this. William the Conqueror, yes. 1066 and all that. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Then here, I'm back to my Stuarts again. Charles II, yeah. I really want to get the James I and the Gunpowder Plot. I've got that marked again. And then, this is real heroic stuff. Captain Scott. Heroic failure, because sadly he wasn't the first then. They tried. Brilliant film, incidentally. John Mills playing Captain Scott. What a heroic kind of story this is. It really is brilliant. And then another one that always stood in mind. Look at that. Richard de Lionheart. Oh, yeah. Wow. Brilliant stuff. Look at that cover. The Crusades and all that stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Then, another legend. Joan of Arc. Look at that. Amazing. And Cleopatra. Oh, wow. Ancient Egypt. Cleopatra. Just so iconic. Brilliant. Absolutely. Then, of course, perhaps one of my favourite periods of history. It's the man, Oliver Cromwell. Oh, yeah. The Civil War period. What a brilliant book this is as well. Absolutely love it. And then finally, we've got another sort of hero, Sir Walter Raleigh. Yes, who brought back the potato and tobacco. Yes, and there is with Queen Elizabeth I. Brilliant. There's so many. These I've not got that many. I had loads, but they were all very brilliant influences in my life. And as a collector, I'm trying to collect some of them back. I do it occasionally, and there's so much to collect in there nowadays. You have to put a line under it. But if I see them, I might just get them. If it's not overpriced and think, well, it's a good bargain. And also, I prefer to get the older ones. They have reprinted these often, and they're not the same. You can tell the front cover gives it away. It's not the same. I like all these retro ones, the older ones. I've got to have them if I do that. So that is one aspect of history. Another thing I used to do is collect newspapers when something historical happens. I used to do that. But again, that sort of died away because you can't keep... It's hard to collect all these things. I had stacks and stacks of them. So I've not got that many. But I've got a representation of them. Now, one of the great events that I always remember in my childhood, of course, 1969, in July, particularly 1969, and I think is it 19th, 20th of July, I got this was published by the Yorkshire Evening Post. It was a special supplement. It was £1. Here it is. This is published after the moon landing. Yes, I still got this. I don't know how I managed to keep this, but I've got it. And there it is. And it's all sort of pictures at that time that just came out. The quality of the pictures obviously wasn't as good in all of them because we didn't see the really good pictures until they got back. I mean, I remember watching live the moon landing and you got this very fuzzy picture. And of course, it was in a black and white small TV as well. So it wasn't that outstanding definition. But at the time, I think a lot of people were quite disappointed because of the cameras. It was when they came back and they then developed the photographs they took, and they were amazing then. We see some beautiful photographs. Absolutely wonderful. But yeah, so that is it's something I don't know I've survived and kept. But there was the actual moon landing from the Yorkshire Evening Post, of course, by anyhow. I managed to get this a couple of years ago, and it just was right up my street. It is sort of newspaper headlines of events, which they reprinted them, and I've put in this folder. So, well, you can see straight away, look at that. It's a reprint of the landing on the moon. But then inside, we've got other events. Get this. Kennedy assassination. The actual assassination of Kennedy. I mean, what a big moment in history that is. Then we have got the coronation of Elizabeth II. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. And then we have got the end of the First World War. There it is. The end of the First World War. Fantastic. And the end of the Second World War. VE Day. Victory over Europe. Because, of course, it did carry on until the Americans dropped the atomic bomb. The war was still going on in the East against Japan, but it got that. And then look at this one. This is an event that I saw on the TV taking place virtually from when it first happened, 9/11. Look at that. That's a day I'll always remember, because for some reason, we'd switch the TV on, me and my wife, and there it was. We thought, oh, it's an accident, a terrible accident has happened, and there it was. We saw it go, right in, and then we thought, oh yeah, everybody was speculating, and then suddenly the second plane crashed in, and you knew straight away this was not an accident, because all the information people didn't know, it was speculation. And then, of course, as we watched it, wow, it was horrendous. Just seeing those two towers and the people jumping out, that's something I'll never forget. People had no choice, and they were jumping out of the building. Wow. And of course, once one fell down, wow, I think of all those people trying to escape from the building, going down the stairs, and then the building fell down. I can't think of anything more tragic even more tragic. What happened? They were given hope. They were trying to escape. They'd be panicking. And then they didn't make it to the bottom. Some fortunately did. There were people who did manage to get out, but not everybody did. So you got real tragedy, and it's something that you never ever forget. And then what have we got here? We have got together at last on the day the world became a better and braver place. And of course, it's the fall of the Berlin Wall. That was, again, I remember that. It was just such a great moment, seeing all the people, the freedom, that the East German people coming over, and the West German people joining together, Germany reunited at last. Amazing. Now, this is another cracking headline. Look at this, about the Titanic. Oh yeah, look at the Titanic there. Obviously, that would be it leaving, I think. Or it could have been from Southampton, but amazing. That is dated Tuesday, April the 16th, 1912. Wow. And then another event I remember well when we went to war. Yes, it would believe it. The Falklands War. Look at that. It's war. Wow. Amazing that these things happened. I remember it well. And then this is proper history. Wow, this is from 1908. Look at that. The Wright brothers. The first people flying. Yes, they, all those years they attempted various people to fly, and here we have somebody. They changed the world. Really did, didn't it? Flying opened up so much. You can say cruise ships did, but flying was just something. Wow, when that happened. Then I remember this as well. This happened on the 26th of December 2004. But this one is from the day after December the 27th, and it was when the two tsunami. You remember the two tsunami? How devastating it was. There it is. That was the headlines. I just remember that so much. It was one of those stories I don't think people realised at the time how dramatic and how tragic the events that had happened. Let's see. Oh, this is the Chernobyl disaster. You remember that? The nuclear disaster. Wow. Oh, wow. Now, the next one is the end of the Vietnam War. Yes, 1973. Wow. I don't think people thought that was ever going to end at one time. It was so long and bad for America. And it ended. They had to make peace and they left. Then this is perhaps again another amazing something that you'll never forget. When Princess Diana died, there she is on the cover. I remember that as well, watching, and then the news, it was all interrupted about what had happened. At first, they were kind of speculating that, she may not have died, but it looked pretty grim, and we soon discovered what had happened. And then, of course, another historic moment, the death and shooting of John Lennon. That was on December the 8th, 1980, when he was shot. Again, I remember that well. I was a student at the time. I remember just being totally shocked. I was up. When I heard it, and just immediately started playing his records. Then, interesting here, we've got about the death of Captain Scott. Yeah, Captain Scott, I mentioned in the Ladybird books. There it is. There's the announcing that he died. Yeah, well, with his brave men around him. Then we've got this one. It's another massive historic story. It was the Iranian embassy siege and the SAS. We saw the SAS. Look at that. You actually see the SAS, who are very secretive. You don't often see, and we could see them breaking in and going in. Wow, it was something dramatic, that was, about the SAS. SAS were just amazing, absolutely. And then, another historic moment, which again I never thought was going to happen, but it did. Nelson Mandela being released from prison. And of course that paved the way for the end of the apartheid system, which so much of the world had been fighting against and hoping that things would change. And Mandela came out, and I remember that moment. And you know what? What was amazing about Mandela is I think a lot of people thought there was going to be a mass of bloodshed. And it never happened because of him. He was such a great man. Really great. Then, another historic moment, Apollo 13. Now, Apollo 13, the world was watching. It really was, because we wondered, would they get back safely? It wasn't certain at all. But somehow, through great ingenuity and they did get back safely. Real amazing. Absolutely. They had to believe, but there we are. And then the world really was at the brink. 1963, the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was when it really looked very dangerous with Castro, and, America made it quite clear we are not having nuclear weapons near our country, which they would have been with Cuba. And the world was on its brink. And that's it. And I've gone on again. You see, just with history, I get so involved in looking at it and thinking, oh, wow, I remember all this. The power of newspapers is just incredible. But anyhow, I better go on. But yeah, that's just a glimpse of my... I can talk about history for hours, so all those people think I'm boring. I'll be definitely saying, God, blimey. But history is like that with me. I could just talk about it. It's as I say, it's with us all the time. Anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed that glimpse of how I've linked history to collecting, and certainly Ladybird books. Extremely collectible, and they do a lot of other things. I've got a lot of other Ladybird books. Like, I enjoyed all the fairy stories. You go and have a look at all the fairy stories, and you've got all the nature stuff. They did loads on nature and places, and just look at Ladybird books, and that's how I'm scratching the surface. They did loads and loads of very great stuff. Anyhow, I've gone on, so I better go now. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and we'll let you know when I put out these videos. And if you look in the playlist, you can see all the things that I do. I do a lot of films, do TV shows, and I do some bit of music. And now I'm doing things like this as well. A lot, just do what I do. And if you like this video, please give this video a like, because it gets it out to YouTube, and hopefully other people like it. So please give it a like. And if you have any comments, please put your comments down. I love to read your comments, and I'll always answer them. And that's it. Yes. So all I've got to say is, I'll see thee again.